to the affair. Good afternoon, everyone. I am the old man, Mr. Brad Chester. With me is Sean, Dice with Rice, and we are ready to talk Marines.
This is going to be a good one.
I think it's going to be a good one. I'm playing Marines this weekend at the California Cup in sunny San Diego. And I'm pumped up. I'm pumped up to talk about the Marines, to be honest with you. We're going to do our typical, how to deal with the meta, what is dealing with it. Give them the 5 steps.
All right, so 5 steps to success. That's 5 steps of dealing with it. First, you have to be a master of preparation. You got to prepare for your tournament. You got to prepare and know your army, and you have to know the rulings that are going on. Then you have to identify what the strengths of your army are, what the strengths of other armies are, and where your strengths and weaknesses line up. Then, of course, now that you are prepared with your army and you know your strengths and weaknesses, you need to make a plan to actually tackle whatever you're doing, be it an RTT, a GTT, or a super major. Then, once you know how your plan is going to unfold, you have to actually practice it, because sometimes things don't go quite as planned. And that's where we get to finally making adjustments, not just parroting what someone else tells you, taking your list and actually making it your own.
Agreed, my friend. Do you guys think GW will ever answer how Eternal Guardians work? They keep disregarding us at the very beginning of 10th, even with the newest FAQ. No. Do you want to be perfectly honest? I think that a bunch of stuff's going to be addressed in January.
I think so too. I think any questions you have, if you're watching this later, any questions you may have, or rulings, disputes, or points, balance, everything else, going to be taken care of in January after they get finished with the World Championships of Warhammer.
Yep. I don't think you're going to see anything until the new year, to be perfectly honest. I'd like to say something different, but I don't think you're going to see any rulings at all on things until then. Right. And I'm going, you know what? I can't figure out what voice I want to use for this. They are my bulwark against terror. They are the defenders of humanity. They are my Space Marines, and they show no fear. I can do that usually because my voice is usually pretty jacked up, so. So, love that. Let's talk about the detachments. And some of you are going to be mad. I had to change how I was looking at this because I wanted to call this Why People Are Going to Be Angry with Sean.
Yeah.
And I didn't bother to put it in there, mainly because I did want to explode the PowerPoint presentation, and, sometimes it's tough. But let's talk about the competitive focus. Let's talk about my competitive focus. Vanguard. Let's go not in alphabetical order. I love me some Vanguard. I think it has so many tricks, but as we'll go a lot farther into this, I think that it is a very dealer's choice. You have a lot of options, but you also have a lot of opportunities to make mistakes. Gladius. Gladius is what we're already used to taking. It's basically Ultramarines in a nutshell. They adapt fairly well. They've got combat doctrines. They can do some shenanigans. You also have some decent options. I don't know if you have as many options as Vanguard, to be perfectly honest with you. Then you've got the Ironstorm Spearhead. This is literally the pumpkin spice latte of detachments. I'm sorry, it just is.
It is. You're not wrong. This is the one that's easiest to just put on the table and start playing.
Yeah, just jam on. You get free rerolls with things. Your strats are not real tricksy. They're all kind of just basic, do some damage to things, make things a little bit more consistent. Not saying that this isn't good. It's just there. Now, Sean calls it narrative focus. I don't know if it's narrative focus. One, I'm going to go into one that I actually think should be up here in the competitive focus, and it's the Firestorm Assault Force. Yep. Because I think that we just need more time with the Firestorm. Firestorm, to be perfectly honest with you. Firestorm has some great strats. It's got some super awesome enhancements. And I think it's one that's just going to require more time on the table, just a little bit more, to be honest with you. And I've been working on this to see it work. The problem is that it requires some more fine tuning, to be perfectly honest with you.
I kind of agree. I kind of agree with that. The main reason for everybody watching, if Firestorm is your jam, if you've been contacting me personally, you know I am excited about Firestorm. I think there's some real play to it. The reason I'm putting it in narrative focus is specifically in the MetaWatch video, they talk about how they want Firestorm to feel like salamanders rolling around in transports and popping out and flaming people. So that's, you know, Brad and I talked about it beforehand just a little bit. I feel like Firestorm's probably the one that's in the middle right now, and I 100% agree. We just haven't put it on the table yet to figure it out because there's a lot of other stuff going on in Warhammer in the meta right now.
Stormlance. Stormlance, I feel, gives the Brandon Valley effect, which is, man, this would be awesome if there was more stuff that was mounted. Their strat is, well, I mean, there's 6 of them, but their main strat is legitimately bonkers town. -1 to hit, -1 to wound on a mounted unit, being able to show up on turn 1 with a big old unit. We'll look at it. You can make some Thunder with Cav kind of mojo happen, but it becomes, for me, unfortunately, I've made this, and it's basically, I make my Vanguard list with 2 units of Thunderwolf Cav without cool Vanguard strats. So, I don't know yet. Anvil Siege Force. Anvil Siege Force would be amazing if the entire game of 40k wasn't built around movement. So, when your bonuses are from standing still and the game is built around moving, well,
yeah.
But they still have some pretty damn good. If you are standing still, you could put some damage down. If they even had a strat that just said you can count 1 unit as stationary, which I kind of thought they would, to be honest with you, it would still probably be worth it, to be honest with you, because there's some sick combos.
Yeah. If we got a 1 CP strat to count a unit as stationary, I would definitely be trying to toy around with this detachment.
And First Company Task Force is a stinking pile of trash. Prove me wrong. I will sit at the table and let you debate me with this. Wow, it's bad.
Yeah, I don't have anything redeeming to say about them, other than if you want to feel thematic with Vanguard Vets and Terminators, you can, and cool.
Sure. Now, I do want to go to the next slide on this, because narrative focus doesn't mean that you can't be competitive and win games. It's just that we're saying that we have already found some of the secret sauce with the ones we put in the competitive. Like I said, Firestorm, I think it should probably already be in competitive. Stormlance can be competitive. And the thing is that, I mean, there's only one that's really bad. And then there's one that's just hard to use, the Anvil. So, like, 100% on that. Also, I'd like to play more narrative. So, no, this is a big thing that everybody keeps calling them. Whatever your detachment is not your chapter right now. And you have to get that out of your head. I'm sorry, but, like, none of these are perfectly with them. White Scars is not Stormlance. Salamanders is not really Firestorm, to be perfectly honest with you. Raven Guard's definitely not played like Vanguard is, to be honest with you. It's, all of these are, make your favorite chapter work in whatever hell detachment you want. You know what I mean? Don't think that you have to stick in the one that's supposed to be you. It's a big deal that you don't. Seriously, though, I cannot state this enough. You're trying to make yourself fit into the shoe that doesn't actually fit you is going to feel shitty when you're making your army. You just play whatever you want. You know what I mean? Make that detachment be your thing. You want to play Sally's, Raven Guard, Scars, whatever. You don't have to be in the one that's supposed to be you. Make your army feel like the way that your army does. I know a lot of people want to play their army more thematically on that, or just the way that they want to play is either more aggressive or less aggressive. Don't try to shoehorn yourself into something that's not going to be there.
Yeah, I think that's a big deal. A lot of people ask me like, "Oh, but I really want to play my thematic Imperial Fists, and I want to play them in Anvil." And I've been helping somebody along with that to try to get Anvil to the best spot it can be in. And after 5 games with them, this person was like, "Yeah, I'm just not having fun. Like, I'm thematic, but I'm really tired of losing every game by a few points. So what do I do?" And then we moved on to some of the other detachments and other things that you could do with it. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to try it, first of all, and find what you like about it. And then also don't be afraid to maybe move on and try some other things too.
God damn it. How did I fall for that grade school shit? Jesus. On that note, everyone, please like and subscribe. It does help us a ton. I can definitely imagine how much it helps. You can't imagine, possibly. It's more powerful than you can possibly imagine, unless you have a really good imagination. Then you can think about it all day. But like and subscribe, it helps us a shit ton on the magic metrics to let us get seen, and it's awesome. You ready to talk about some combos? Because holy shit, you went nuts on combos.
Yeah, I got so many. People just want to know.
People want to know. I'm gonna let you do this because, oh my God,
because Brad's eyes would glaze over halfway. Okay, so we're gonna run through this quick. There will be timestamps at the bottom for each one if you're watching later, so you can skip to the detachment you want to see. First off, we're gonna start with Gladius. It is the one that's most well known, of course, but there's still some interesting things in there, and maybe you don't know them. So, Fire Discipline, Apothecary, Biologis, with some aggressors, and then a mode of transportation. Everybody knows this combo so far if you've been playing Space Marines, and you sure have played against it, because everyone and their brother plays Space Marines. Basically, this is exploding 5s and lethal 5s in Dev Doctrine. And then the modes of transportation are usually a Land Raider Redeemer. That's the one with all the flamethrowers.
Or Uncle Uriel.
Uriel is something that I've been doing to just give that whole unit Deep Strike and just Deep Strike it in. Then, if you're a Blood Angels player, you are very familiar with the combo of Lamarties and Death Company. Basically, this combo just combined with Gladius to give it advance and charge, just lets it tear apart some unit in melee, and also happens to let them throw some pistol shots out if they don't need to go whole hog. The next one is Darnath Lysander with Rapid Ingress. A lot of people are taking Darnath in their Imperial Fist list because he's awesome.
Literally nobody calls him Darnath. He's Lysander or nothing. Sorry. Thank you very much.
Sure. Being technically right. It is Lysander. You take him in a group of Terminators and you go, cool, they get -1 to wound, whatever. The real play with him is to take him solo and Rapid Ingress him in, because this man hits like a freight train and is unbelievably durable. You can basically just have him go steal away a point. You can have him score some secondaries and walk around. Basically, he's just a big problem that your opponent has to worry about. Phobos Librarian and Infiltrators and/or Eliminators. This combo makes this unit unable to be shot. It basically turns the whole unit into a lone operative.
Yeah, go into the thing of these two are wildly different things, though.
They are.
The Phobos Librarian plus the Infiltrators is a defensive. You can't deep strike within 12. You can't come in anyway within 12 inches of the Infiltrators, and then they can't be shot within 12 inches. So you can do a lot of screening out, take an objective. You can do some shenanigans in the middle, make your opponent come into a spot where you want. And then the Eliminators plus the Phobos Librarian is just wildly irritating for your opponent, because they've got, I don't know, dev wounds if they don't move, +1 to hit if they don't move, and you can't shoot them. So they just stand with the Librarian in your face, or, well, not in your face, way back there, but standing,
way back there.
But standing where your face can see them, and they just shoot at you and go, do something about this. And you're like, cool, I can't.
This combo used to be used when Oath still let us reroll wounds, to just have 3 units of these just start picking up Imperial Knights. And that is not a joke. You can still use it to do some serious damage and to really harass your opponent, but also being able to shoot then move and not be shot back afterwards by, unless somebody gets close, lets them score a lot of points while they're shooting you.
100%. There's a lot of, especially if you're looking at GW terrain, excuse me, where the neutral zone objective is in the open. You can just stand one of these lone operator / units on them, still score, and with the Eliminators, you can actually start doing some damage on it too.
100%. The next one is for Blood Angels again, the Librarian Dreadnought plus Aggressors. Basically, this is a one-time use of teleport them around, and I didn't want to put it with the standard package because the Librarian Dreadnought by himself also just lets you teleport other units into position. This is a very unique thing that you can do and why you shouldn't just be stuck in playing your own detachment. The Blood Angels detachment, sure, it can still teleport people around, but you can really get a firing base out of your Blood Angels army by including a Librarian Dreadnought and some Aggressors that your opponent always has to be worrying about. Then we have Azrael and Hellblasters for Dark Angels. Everyone's mostly familiar with Azrael, mainly for that he somehow can't join Company Heroes for some reason. And then he gives exploding sixes to the unit. So now you have Hellblasters that shoot with exploding sixes, blow themselves up, and shoot again with exploding sixes. So just a very effective little package of guys.
I'm going to throw something on the screen right now because it makes me mad because why can't Shrike join suppressors?
Yes. There is that too, and as Brad points out, we have Shrike and a jump pack chaplain, it's a mouthful, plus Vanguard vets. You can put Shrike with Vanguard vets, and it basically gives them lone opera as well. But more importantly, the jump pack chaplain actually lets your Vanguard vets do damage. Their AP isn't high, but in Gladius you can give them an extra AP, and the jump pack chaplain gives them +1 to wound.
Lyle coming with the $2 super chat saying Blood Angels aggressors, you say? Mainly because he has 18 of them, and also he's literally got some sort of obsession with aggressors. I don't know what's going on there, but if you let him play aggressors, he will bring all of the aggressors.
That sounds about right, Lyle. It's pretty good. Pretty good. Now, of course, there are other combos in Gladius, but these are the main ones that stick out to people as very effective. Obviously, I could go on all day, but we do not have all day. So we're going to move on to the Ironstorm. This one, the first line here is because if you've been playing Ironstorm, you know it's very cookie cutter. You take a Tech Marine, you take some enhancements, you pair it with your favorite vehicles. That is the cookie cutter element of it. I'm not going to go into it too much. Basically, there's an enhancement that lets you fall back and shoot. There's an enhancement for lethal hits. There's an enhancement to blank a failed save and make it damage 0. Okay, that out of the way, some of the interesting things you can do. Whirlwinds plus Mercy is weakness. What this does is Mercy's weakness lets you get exploding 5s against a target that has already been wounded. 2 Whirlwinds together won't take out a target, but 2 Whirlwinds that are getting +1 hit from a Tech Marine, and one of them gets exploding 5s. Okay, yeah, that's gonna really take down some tough targets. Then we have Talon Masters plus those same enhancements. Talon Masters have the ability to be lone op and to give other fly vehicles ignore cover. Why does that matter? Because what you can do is give the same enhancement to Talon Masters and then play a bunch of Dark Angel specific speeders and run around with stealth, cover, ignoring cover, +1 to wound, lone op. This is a certain Ironstorm combo that does work and is very effective. And if you are more of the speeder variety, maybe your mad speeders left, you can definitely start to try this combo out because I think it's something that's underexplored right now. Then we have the durability combo of Guilliman in an Ultramarines Ironstorm plus Armor of Contempt, and your 2-up save Dreadnought of choice doesn't matter. Basically lets you use Armor of Contempt twice. And you can just make 2 Dreadnoughts really, really tough. There is another one I wanted to add here before Brad gives us his take on Ironstorm. You can just play Black Templars and get extra multi-meltas. I did not feel like that was a combo, more in that it was you're just taking Black Templars and you get multi-meltas.
Yeah, because their Dreadnought or their vehicles are just better because they went, hey, would you like to have this t-shirt launcher or a multi-melta? And you're like, can I take the multi-melta on the front? That seems better. I mean, I do enjoy shooting t-shirts at people, but also the multi-melta.
100%.
You know what? I'm going to Vanguard. I'm screwing around here. Set devs deep striking in. +1 to hit, +1 AP. Seems legit. Phobos plus literally anybody is such a big deal. The ability for you to pick up a unit of infantry, any infantry, which means sent devs can go back into the air, or take 2 Phobos units and put them back in, is for 1 CP. Seems legit. Also, +1 to hit, +1 AP. Again, when you're -1 to hit and always in cover, also legit. Super, super good. Inceptors popping in 3 inches away from things. It's just fantastic. You have lots of options for the blade-driven deep. I think what I called it yesterday was the Kung Fu Master stab you in the head. Same thing. But
Same thing.
Infiltrating a unit in gives you so many options of what you're infiltrating in. It could be aggressors to shoot the place up. It could be Terminators. It could be just a small command squad. There's just a lot of options, and you don't have to be right up on top of your opponent, but you have the option to do it. So you could be really aggressive. You could just set them with a neutral zone objective. It's very, very big on this. So you have things like the Death Strike Terminator Captain plus the Deathwing Knights, which are just nuts when you're talking about people with lethal hits and getting a guy back every turn and counting his OC as 77. And you bring a giant squad. So many OC.
Yeah, this is a, and there's even more Vanguard combos that we didn't include because Brad and I have really been delving into this detachment in particular. Something that was also brought to my attention is you can take a Phobos captain who has had his redeploy changed. So you actually do get to see who goes first before you redeploy. And if you were looking to take more of a Raven Guard style army, you can take Shrike and you can put him right where he wants to be. And then
hit something.
Move him around.
And it's also nice because Shrike makes the unit just like the Phobos Librarian does, but he makes any unit up. Well, he can only go with certain jump guys.
Right.
But like he hits a flank, and he basically you're telling people where they need to move, and really bullying people's movement is what you'd like to do. You know, you could put them into, hey, excuse me, would you like to shoot this? Cool. Well, move into range of my other stuff. Move into range of my counter assault. Move into range of my other shooting things. Move over to the side where I wanted to walk a unit off the side of the board. Really looking forward. Vanguard's got a lot of things, but you have to constantly be putting those pieces in play and letting your opponent come on into the trap. But it's difficult on that sometimes because this is not just to stand in front of you and shoot.
Yeah, no, that is not Vanguard's thing. It has the ability to stand in front of you and shoot, but only at a time when it deems it necessary.
But there's a big deal when you get things like the Cent Devs. They move really slow. I'd like them to be somewhere else. Cool, for 1 CP, I'm going to be anywhere on the table. And since I'm -1 to hit, I've got a 2-up save, and I'm going to be counted as cover, even if I'm standing in the wide open. It's a big deal. All of these are all of the good strats are 1 CP, which makes it very easy to let your plans go through. Let's talk about Flamestorm because they have this. Well, let's go back. Vanguard, a lot of cool strats that are easy to use and tactics that are not easy to use, but like you can see where they're going, and some of them are very, very easy to run through. Flamestorm has a lot of combinations of things that you want to do. That man. They scare me because you got to be up close and personal.
Yeah, so, as we alluded to, their idea when making Flamestorm was, let's put a bunch of guys in transport and have them run out within 12 inches and flame people. Now, you have to be very careful when doing that. So here are some of the combos that are actually pretty solid, I think, in Salamanders, Flamestorm particularly. We got Adrex plus Blade Guard. Blade Guard, if you've played them, if you're a Space Marine player, you tried them and went, wow, these do no damage, because Strength 5 on a Power Sword is bad. Well, Adrex lets you reroll the wounds, and he's actually got a decent weapon to go along and get those rerolls. Then we have
+1 wound strat.
yeah, and you just have the ability to actually do some damage with your Blade Guard and be pretty durable for your points cost. We've got Vulcan and Infernus Marines and a Land Raider, plus Immolation Protocols. Not imitation protocols, but immolation protocols. What is this doing for you? This is a very interesting combo. Vulcan lets your army reroll with Torrent and Melta against a target he can see within 24 inches. Now, at first thought, you go, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to look at it. Not quite. 24 inches seems like a long way when you're planning, and then when you actually put it on the table, you're like, oh, I have to be like right up close to you. So that's another interesting part of Flamestorm. Immolation Protocols just lets you get dev wounds on flame weapons. Combine that with Vulcan's reroll to wound, you suddenly are now fishing for dev wounds. And that is the point where...
It's uncapped, too. It's one of the only uncapped things in the game.
Completely uncapped. That is the point where your 10 Infernus Marines or your Flamestorm Aggressors, which you absolutely will take in this detachment, can just go nuts against somebody. Then you have Gladiators. Why are Gladiators on here? What Flamestorm does is it lets your army advance and shoot.
Hold on. It doesn't... Don't tell them it misinformation, my friend.
Yeah, hold on.
It turns all of your weapons into assault weapons.
You're right. There is a caveat there. It does turn your weapons into assault weapons, which does have some niche applications. But Gladiators are generally just a good shooting platform, and combined with that detachment rule, their stocks go even further up. Gravis Captain and Biologis plus Forged in Battle. What this combo lets you do is Forged in Battle once per turn, lets you change a hit or a save to a 6. So when you do it with the Gravis Captain, you can start using, in your aggressor unit, you can use the strat for free. And then on defense, you can go ahead and make a save go through, which is pretty great when you can do it every time. Or, you could just take a Biologis and put it with, I don't know, anyone you wanted to, and just automatically get a hit on them in Overwatch. That ends up being pretty good with, I don't know, Melta weapons, when you're just like, cool, you're going to start by taking a save, and then I'll continue to roll all these dice. It's not like Eldar's doing it as well, and slightly better, but, Salamanders in the Flamestorm, or just anybody in the Flamestorm can also do it pretty well.
What's wrong with that?
Right. Flamestorm Aggressors in Immolation, this is just Flamestorm with the Flamestorm Gauntlets, have twin linked already. So once you let them reroll wounds and give them dev wounds, they're just dumping a ton of dev wounds on a target. Caveat, of course, it has to be within 12 inches.
This is why this is harder, though. It's just you have to get so close. Some of these are amazing, by the way, but being that close means that you're always getting your opponent to be able to counter because, well, you're right here, right there. Faces right all up in their shit. You're like, hey, let me look for Sean's models. Oh, they're right on top of mine. Got it.
Yeah, very, very hard to play on the table in practice, because there's also the fear that I know Brad has when we would put this on the table is, what if you don't roll quite well enough? Then your army is hanging out in the open and you did not take out your target. That is definitely something to be wary of if you're going to play this detachment. The final one that I wanted to mention is either Hellblasters or Eradicators plus a transport of your choice and Burning Vengeance. This is a unique strat that lets you, if your transport lives after it's been shot, your guys then immediately disembark and shoot back. And that can be a very big playmaking role. Now, obviously, if you have aggressors and they're within 12 and sure, but more realistically, the range of the Hellblasters and Eradicators is going to matter for this one. And anytime you're shooting out of phase, you can really open up some plays.
Getting those extra activations. Let's go into some Stormlance stuff, because I love the fact that you put Thunderwolves and Thunderwolf accessories at Barbie Dreamhouse. The Thunderwolf accessories literally are characters that go with Thunderwolves and make them pretty goddamn good. Not be it the Wolfguard leaders on Thunderwolf, the Wolf Lord on Thunderwolf, Canis and Herald. Those guys are all legit, and their points are pretty good right now. Advance and charge on all of this. Advance and charge on your Dreadnoughts. Jump Pack Chaplain plus Vanguard Veterans plus Wings plus Evasion. You can also come in with, on turn 1, TO permitting, of course, Thunderwolf Cavalry Rapid Ingress. And again, one of the best defensive strat literally in the game, besides just not being targeted, is -1 to hit, -1 to wound.
Yeah, this is a huge deal. Stormlance's problem is not that it's hard to build, not that it doesn't have mobility. Its problem is actually its damage. If your opponent realizes that most of your attacks are lower strength and AP checks notes 1, then they can do a lot of things they normally wouldn't do, which is go more in the open and just accept your charge. And with things like Armor of Contempt or Void Armor, what have you, I combine that with a fall back and shoot, and suddenly a lot of the Stormlance's teeth, pun intended, really kind of...
I think you need to lean into the Stormlance with trying to get the most things with devastating wounds that you can in your army.
Indeed, that is a rare instance where your strengths are already so built in that you can kind of lean towards, how do I get some of this damage so that my opponent can't do that to me?
Yeah, I think that's a big deal. And I want to go into continue the preparation on the building an effective list, because I think that goes into it a lot.
Yeah.
Because we'll talk about, damage dealers and stuff. So first off is always, what are we taking to hold the board, to score my secondaries? These are Inceptors. By the way, 3-man Inceptor squads aren't your damage dealers. They can do damage. Man, they score secondaries, and they also can steal primaries so well. The 3-inch drop, so hard for your opponent to deal with. Scout Squad, an infiltrating unit, 4 deploying unit that, for free, no CP whatsoever. Hey, you're not happy where you are at the end of your opponent's turn? Cool. Go back into reserve. Score another secondary. And of course, the oldie but goodie, Gladius Assassin just scores points. The fact that he bounces every single turn, and it's one model on a tiny ass base. So easy to fit in and go, hey, look, I'm deploying teleport homers right next to your army. So it's really annoying on that. Now, go ahead.
I was going to say, I use one Scout Squad and the Gladius in pretty much all my Marine lists. And, of course, one unit of Inceptors is auto-include. And these 3 together will score me about half or more of all my secondary points in a given game, which is pretty crazy to think about.
It's just so good on that. Now, your objective holders, things like Whirlwinds for your backboard edge, Lieutenant with Combi Bolter, which, again, no one knows why the Lieutenant with Combi Bolter got 47 keywords for picking up a certain weapon. Infiltrators, especially when you slap them with the Phobos Librarian, are fantastic. And then you really, really have to, and I cannot stress this enough, I talk about it all the time, when you want to get the 1,400 to 1,500 points of your army, and then start putting stuff in and out from there. But to do that, you have to have an army identity. What am I trying to do with this army? Am I trying to just stat check people to put out raw damage? Am I an aggro army that's looking to put baby in the corner? Am I looking to just take the board? And for me, and the people can throw stuff at me, this is what Marines have always been to me. Is a board control type army. That's how I play them, and I like them a lot. Which is just these elements that can just keep scoring points, because you're not going to maximum efficiency right now, Marines versus some of the other things that are out there, cough, cough, Eldar, and you're going to have issues with those. So you need to make sure that you know who you are. Be the best you can be.
Exactly, and that determines all of your decisions. It determines how you practice, and that's why preparation is step 1. You have to know where you are and where you're trying to go to even figure the rest out. Then I did want to touch on this because the first bullet point here is something that was potentially addressed in a latent breaking FAQ. We are not going to go over that FAQ specifically. All we're going to say is you should definitely ask your TOs some of these questions, such as, can my ignore modifier abilities ignore Armor of Contempt? That is huge when you're playing Marines. If your TO rules that, yes, Trajan and Mortarion can, that is a big knock to Marines. And you need to know that going in, because it changes the math wildly.
Yep. Also, am I going to be playing multiple missions on Sweeping Engagement? Because, well, it's hard to hide. It's also 22 inches away for some reason.
And it's really hard to actually get control of the board if your opponent can spread out and start shooting you as early as turn 1, no matter where you place your units.
Yep, and especially on GW, because the objectives are in the open on Sweeping Engagement with all of their setups. Going into setups, terrain setups is my event player placed. For instance, the event that I'm going to this weekend is player placed, and I chose more long distance shooting than I did for my other list that I've made, because of the fact that I know I'm going to have longer lanes, because I'm setting up the terrain. I will be able to shoot longer fields of that. And then you got to look into can I rapid ingress on turn 1 using combinations of abilities? And you need to make sure that that happens, because you don't want to have a lot of your army based on the fact that you're going to be able to put these key pieces in places on turn 1 and then find out that you can't, because that does take away a huge amount of your scoring ability. And or it just also makes it so when you're expecting to play a certain way and you can't, it does mess with the rest of your tournament for you.
Yep. You need to know that if you're going to play Thunderwolf Cav specifically. So if you're a Stormlance lover, you've got to know this rule and get it ahead of time. And also if you're going to play against things like Burst of the Fray or Demons, you need to know if you need to deploy completely differently, because suddenly you might have Demons or a whole bunch of Paladins right in front of you on turn 1.
I love this. Can we go over every Marine data sheet intricately one at a time? I'm not trying to put off leg day, I swear. Never put off leg day. So I'm going to go, as usual, I'm going to talk about the Marine strengths, and Bad Dad Sean Rice is going to talk about their weaknesses. So let's talk about their strengths. It has a high skill ceiling right now, I feel. It really gives you so many options. But when you have this many options, you also have so many chances to screw it up. So you have to make correct decisions all the time, and you can get paralysis due to analysis, looking at the board and figuring out exactly what I'm able to do. You have some crazily powerful, and I would say some of the most versatile stratagems in the game, especially the fact that you can move units around. You have some pretty crazy defensive and offensive stratagems, which again goes into the skill ceiling, because you have to manage your CP throughout the game of when is the best time, especially when you're playing something like, Firestorm, and I want to use 4 CP a turn. Newsflash, you don't get 4 CP a turn, but I would love to, because they have some great stuff. Your scoring ability is fantastic, and I found putting this on the board, Scouts, Inceptors, Calidus, Advance and Shoot, being able to redeploy things. I feel like I've got so many ability to score points with secondaries, but also there's a lot of lone operators and people that have lone operator / shrouding. You have ability to just kind of take some, especially early game in the first 2-3 turns, score that primary and really put up big, even in losses, put up big scores, give yourself the chance to win. And here's Sean to be a Debbie Downer.
That's right. It's bad cop time. The first problem you have as Marine is that you're a Marine. Yes, the AP of the edition has shrunk, but a Marine is still a Marine. And you know that if you're a Marine player. You put stuff in the open, it's not there in your turn. And that leads us into our second problem, which is prolonged staying power. If you're going to try to play this long, continuous engagement game as Marines, you're going to find out about turns 3 or 4 that you have completely run out of gas. And the scorer and board needs to be in a position already that you are winning, or at least are going to win, granted some good tactical draws or some good move blocking. And if you are not trying to take this strategy, you're just not going to have any stuff left to do anything. All your damage is going to be gone. And finally, this goes along with list building. You can be too specialized. Marines have a lot of different tools, but if you are running into a Horde army and suddenly you only have 2 units with Horde clearing weapons, that is not going to go well for you. So it can very much be a case of, I brought all Meltas to the Horde fight, or I brought 2 Gladiator Reapers and played against Knights.
Yes, and more yes. Let's talk about making a plan, because we got to get shaking and baking, my friend. Who's taking too long today?
That's a big one.
Always lean into your strengths. Bold letters, mitigate weaknesses. Always try to utilize your strengths more than you're trying to mitigate weaknesses. If you spend too much time mitigating weaknesses, you should be playing something different that mitigates that weakness. But leaning into strengths is just a big deal. Let's talk about the fact that tactical secondaries. Marines can build a list that is able to literally score anything that you're drawn, except for turn 1 capture enemy outpost. Also, screw you, GW. That should be immediately shuffled in.
Unless you're a Tom
Ogden, exactly. You just
right there on the line.
Turn 1 on 9 inches away, you're already on the line. You didn't even care. That was your plan all along. Oh, yeah. He only has control enemy outpost as his 16 cards. 16 control enemy outposts. Let's talk about some key units that you're going to see all the time. And I'm going to bounce around pretty wildly on this one.
Hit us.
Inceptors, just amazing. They have a mix of offense and defense. They're the durable unit that can really go into things like, I don't know, plunging fire because of the fact that you can get 3 inches away from somebody. Super big on that. Aggressors, fantastic for what they do. Shooting, plus they've got a power fist, so they have options. Again, nice durable body. Gladiators, there's a reason why gladiators are literally sold out for, I don't know, forever apparently. Great body. All of them are good, by the way.
All of them. Literally all of them, actually.
Yeah. Which gladiators should you take? Yes.
Yes.
They're all good. Redemptors with AOC plus a cover plus a 2-up save. -1 to wound, or -1 damage.
Damage, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Centurion Devastators, God, I've been talking about these guys so much because Sean wouldn't listen to me, but man, really great offense. They do require mobility, cough, play in Vanguard. Scouts, if you're not putting the scouts in your list, you...
Well, yeah, what are you even doing? Come on, you get some scouts, get some old scout models, just put them on the table. They're so good.
Fix your life. Infiltrators, fantastic. They can do shenanigans. Land Raider Redeemer, I got the Land Raider Redeemer, put the truth on my head. Playing as orcs, the Land Raider Redeemer kept showing me the fury of 1,000 suns as the Overwatch kept setting me on fire. But
true story.
And then Lieutenant with Combi Bolter, holy God, this dude's 70 points of keyword check all. He literally has lone operator. He chooses an objective. You just reroll once to wound on it. He's got stealth, feel no pain. The dude's bonkers.
For 70 points. See, this is a 110 point model that suddenly forgot a third of its cost somewhere.
Yeah.
You just take this guy. He does auto populate in a lot of my lists too, because 1 is just fantastic for everything you want to be doing.
He's just good. I mean, it's a big deal in this. Now, as always, one of the biggest things is you have to be time efficient. This is why we talk about our style of practice is a little different than other people. We reset consistently, talk through all our moves, because you don't have enough game time to play the 26 factions that you have to. Also, when you're trying to figure out which one of these 43 Marine lists that you want to play with, it's a big deal, which means that you have to be communicating all the time with your practice partner. What is the best move? What do you think about this? What would you have done? It's such a big deal. Now, what does that mean to get your plan together when you're trying to make those adjustments, which we'll talk about just a second? Is you have to be, and I love this line, I almost changed it to something else, but I decided against it. Battle on your own terms. It is super important that you are not lining up Braveheart style against other armies, because you will lose against those other armies. There's other people that are better and more efficient. They have more durable bodies. You have to be taking angles. You have to figure out your game plan. Am I a cheeky Vanguard monkey? Yes. Awesome. I sneak around. I ninja plans. Stab people in the dark. It's
Kung
awesome.
Fu. Kung Fu, get in there.
So, no one accept what's going on in the open. This is about almost every army, though. You have to accept the fact that most people build lists, and the default thing that they need to kill is 5 Marines. That's how people go.
That's how people build every single list, 100% of the time.
Exactly.
Can I kill 5 Marines with my unit?
Yep. And you have to basically do move shenanigans. You've got so many units that can forward deploy. They can move in your opponent's turn. They can be picked up. You have to be able to limit your opponent's movement options with your plethora of wild move options that you do. And one of the biggest things is each unit needs to be doing something. And we say that's something I'd love to be able to activate twice in a game. Activating twice doesn't mean that we're shooting twice, fighting twice. Sometimes an activation means I took an objective, I moved block, and I shot something. I'm super happy with a unit that takes away some points, scored some points, and limited my opponent's movement in some way. It doesn't have to be just damage. You can't think of it just that, because if you're looking at Marines and just damage, they aren't the best damage army. So just play Tau or something. You know what I mean? Just go kill people. This army is, you have to be getting value out of everything that puts on the table.
Yeah, and this is oftentimes people are like, you know, well, what does my specific unit do when I'm practicing? Marines do not have that. Your units in Marines need to be able to do just about anything, because Brad's right. You are not as glass cannon as Eldar. You are not as durable as Knights. You are not as tricky as some other factions. But all your units are useful. They can move block easily. They can go and score that secondary. They can take out that trash unit. They can combine with other units to take out a tough unit. So there's never going to be a situation where just your one unit does one thing and it only does that one thing. You're going to have to get over that when you're playing Marines.
So much. And again, as always, when you're practicing, talk about what isn't working. Talking about what isn't working is actually way better than talking about what is working, because you want to get those in the negative mojo out of your list. You want to start focusing on, okay, this isn't what is for me. Let's get into something. And I want to lean into the, don't get yourself into the list when you're talking about that. Practice the things that you like, especially rule of cool always applies. Always applies. So bring the stuff that you love that looks cool on the table, but it's a big deal on that. So you need to figure out the best things for you. Don't let somebody tell you not to try something. Always scissors, paper, rock, throat punch. Throat punch wins all of them. Play the things that you want to play. Test things. You'll find better options on that.
And again, just because we didn't put it on here, if you want to play Oops All Thunderwolf Cav in Stormlance, do it. It is fine. You totally can do that. If you want to play a bunch of flamers in Flamestorm because you like that, you can do it. And as long as you're keeping in mind the things we're talking about, and you know what units are scoring, you know how you're dealing with certain situations, you know you're building these versatile armies that can do multiple things at a turn, you will find success with Marines.
Now, let's talk about these strugglings. I love this. I love to go over these quite a bit. So, struggling as Marines. And I hear these like a lot. So, this is kind of the things you need to focus on when you say you're struggling with a specific thing. You're putting up a reasonable fight, but a run out of steam. Practice when and what needs to engage. And that's a big deal. Also, can I move block with one unit instead of two units? I see this a lot when you play things like World Eaters or other fast units. Sometimes all you need to do is redirect and then measure that out. Pre-measure. Because I would rather have one unit block and then another unit move block, trap. You know, you can't throw away your resources all at the same time. It's a big deal on that.
And then, of course, we have, my units feel great against my oath, but then I struggle to kill anything afterwards. Yes, that is true. That is intentional. Remember what I said. Yes, your Marine units are supposed to do multiple things, and they combine with your rules and other units to take down tough targets. So what do you do about that? You bring units that are perfectly fine without oath. You are bringing gladiators. You're bringing aggressors who have shooting and melee. You are tackling problems with a multitude of units and not just saying, oath that one thing. Okay, I killed it. Now I'm going to put up a, meager resistance with everything else. If you do that for 5 turns, you're probably going to lose a game. They're going to be down 5 units and all of your units are going to be gone.
And it's a big deal when you're looking at this, because I want to go into the last point and also combine them together. I have a lot of options, but none of them feel quite right, strong enough to give me the win. Marines are not a starter army. They are because everybody plays them, but it requires a lot of skill with this. There's a lot of mojo with it that you need to consider every single time you're playing. Now, one of the things that I want to go back to the second is Marines now have a lot of things that get independent rerolls, be it rerolls to wound or a reroll or 2 to hit. And that's a big deal when you're choosing what to shoot. Yes, your oath target, you can reroll everything on that. But it's a big deal to go, hey, I get full rerolls to wound over here with my twin link. Can I put a strat on there? Can I reroll here? Can I get to hit on 2s instead of 3s? Make sure that you're focusing those units on the best things that they can shoot.
That's actually a really big thing, and one I wanted to share since I took Marines to a tournament recently. A play I did often because I built my list this way was I would oath one target, I would put one unit into it. My opponent would pop their defensive strats, and then I would put my entire army into something else. And that is the kind of plays you need to be looking for when you're playing Marines, is your opponent knows you need to deal with this one terrifying unit. And really all I was dealing to deal with it was I'd already move blocked it. They just didn't know it yet. And then they set up for their defense, and I just ignored it entirely. And that's the kind of thing that you need to be looking to do. You need to have multiple answers already in the chamber, already ready to go. And then that allows you to start making plays with Marines.
And it's a big deal on this. Now, let's talk through the 5 steps what we need to do here. We're kind of wrapping everything up, and then we're going to tell you. We're going to look at some lists.
Everybody's favorite
So,
part.
preparation. You have to know your combos. You can't use your combos if you don't know them. So, always know your army inside and out, hopefully. Have cheat sheets. Have your cards out. Literally, sometimes just give yourself these are the things that I can do. Set them right next to your table. Have them on your hand. Look like a QB that just got put in. Like, literally look over, what are my options? Because you can't identify strengths and weaknesses if you don't know your strengths and weaknesses. You have to start focusing on what can I do? Because Marine's strength is, they have 7,000 options that you have to narrow down into one cohesive force. And we want to make it so that you have those options. What options are working? Again, that's why it's so important to start paring away what's not working more so than what is, to be honest with you. This is not my style. I did not really like how they felt on the table. Cool, get rid of them, put in something else with that battlefield role, and continue to revise your list from there. Because what you want to be doing is getting to that point where you're making a plan. Because when you do list construction and get it on the table, you should always have how am I doing this? How am I scoring points? It's not about just killing stuff. Now, killing stuff is one of the things that goes down the list of making the checklist when you're making an army, but it can't be the only thing. Also, scoring.
I did want to interject there real quick, Brad. For people who don't know, when we talk about that moment where destroying enemy units versus scoring your points, that's because we know there is always a point in the game where two armies are going to have to meet. But depending on if you want those armies to meet quickly or meet slowly, will depend on how your army actually plays and what you want to be doing with your list. There will be a point in the game where you're going to have to fight your opponent in some way. So we're not saying just avoid that. We're saying do it smart.
Correct. And do it on you. Sometimes we say slow the game down, which means that I just don't want every turn to be interaction. Not go to the bathroom and don't come back. So it's a big deal in this. Now, making a plan is making a plan to score and win the game. I can't stress this enough. I say it to everybody. I coach, you have your plan, and then either bottom of 2, top of 3, you have to basically take a step back from the game and reevaluate your plan so that you don't get just caught up in punching the guy standing next to you. You need to make sure that you're trying to win the game, not just roll dice and kill things in the game. And how do you figure those things out? Practice. Practice, practice, practice. My go-to, every time you're going to make a move, and this applies especially for Marines, every time I touch a piece, I say, how am I scoring points? How am I denying points? How am I setting up for the next turn? And you need to do that with your Marines because they can't be doing nothing. Every Marine has to have a goal in life. My goal in life is to score me points and deny my opponent's scores. So, and then let's talk about making adjustments. Making adjustments, you make adjustments in small, focused areas. Take the things out that aren't working, rework the other things. Do not make giant list changes. You have to, again, go into what Sean said. You have to know who you are. You have to have your identity. You have to know what you're trying to do with your list. If you want to make a completely different list, cool, but realize that you're starting over. You can't just be changing 1,000 points every time and then wondering why you're not getting to the secret sauce because you're changing too many variables. You're trying to solve for the entire alphabet as opposed to solving for X. So it's important that we constantly do that. I said Austin. Killing units slowly puts away Grey Knights.
Accurate.
Yeah.
All right, Brad, hit us with your thing. They've dealt with it.
This is my newer one though. This is not what I'm taking this weekend.
Okay.
Because
Hit us with it.
So what I'm taking this weekend's a little bit different because I know that I was going to look at long distance shooting. So I took some Lancers in the place of this, but then I said, well, I'm not going to be playing on player-place terrain most of the time. I live in the East. Well, I don't live on the East Coast, but I live in the Eastern time zone at least. How about that? So here's the combinations. Vanguard, going into some Dark Angels. Ancient Terminator armor with the Deathwing command squad. Love these guys. Literally gives me OC 18 on with the guys that can get a guy back every turn. Phobos Librarian. He's now jumping inside. Oh, is that Infiltrators? No, I want to go with Eliminator shenanigans because I wanted to be able to post up and start shooting some people. They're both really good. They've both been in and out of my list. The Lieutenant with Combi-Weapon. This guy's so bonkers. We already talked about him. Love it with his 47 keywords for 70 points. 2 3-man unit of Centurion Devastators with Lascannons and missiles. You literally shooting downtown with all the option to give them +1 to hit, +1 AP, and also the fact that they can just be put back into reserve, come out, shoot somebody again. 2 Gladiator Reapers. Now that's different than my Lancers right now because I think that if I'm playing on GW terrain and other set pieces of terrain, we get into like closer firefights. And devastating moves is a hell of a drug. Twin linked again, big deal to get them. I've got 12 total Inceptors, 3, 3, and 6. I'm probably going to go 3 bolter, 3 bolter, 6 plasma, which is I'm taking this weekend. But you can go either way, to be honest with you. I'm hemmed and hawed about that myself. And then 2 5-man units of scouts. This just gives me so much stuff. I forgot about the 2 3-man units of Eradicators. How dare you? But one of the biggest things in this list is I have tons of twin-linked weapons, tons of move blocking, and tons of ability to move in my opponent's turn. Reposition on the board for very cheap. For nothing, for scouts, 1 CP with the strat from Vanguard. And you can really make things happen. Now, is this the most devastating army ever? No, but it literally has options to deal with everything.
That's a very good point. Again, this is something put in practice and something that Brad has in his own list he's taking to a major tournament. You are not trying to just one-shot your opponent. You are trying to play a very long, well-thought-out game using everything at your disposal to get that win.
I'm going to go with this on the side. OnePlus says, on average, how many dew point guys have you recommend having? As you try to go, who is doing it turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, when I've been playing this, but I feel like I don't have a lot of offense that way. It is a big thing because you have to run down the checklist. And I always do this. Do I have enough damage? If somebody just puts their army in front of mine, can I do something about it? Do I have enough scoring? And that's what yours is. And then I have to run down. And what I do a lot is I look at fixed and I look at, if I pull 2 cards a turn, who's scoring these, and then they probably die afterwards. So what I'm trying to do is give myself opportunities such as Deathwing Command Squad. I'm not looking to charge those guys in turn 1. I'm looking to sit on the neutral zone objective behind a wall and just take an objective the whole game long. Also, I might just keep performing secondaries with them. The Eliminators / Infiltrators with the Phobos Librarian. I want them to be doing extend battle lines, cleanse, things like that, because I can get multiple activations out of them. So you're going to have to look at that divide versus my throwaway units, my move block type units that are going to get murdered and might do area denial, teleport homer in the middle, whatever, behind enemy lines and things of that nature. So you have to have a little bit of a half and half of things that could possibly do more and things that are going to get thrown into the wood chipper when they finish doing their thing.
Brad's making a lot of really good points, and we actually talked a lot about this when we were making his list for the tournament he's going to. Is you need to have just enough damage to keep your opponent away, but enough scoring units that you can absolutely score anything that you draw. Something that I found when I was playing Marines recently was I played 8 rounds. 5 of my opponents were like, wow, you were really scoring every card you draw. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what Marines do.
Yep.
I have all these units that just do everything. And there were so many times my opponents were just very confused why I was going in this place or making this play, only for it to come together when I drew investigate signals behind enemy lines. And they watched it and they just go, okay, I get it. Because now you get 10 points of secondaries in a turn. And, looks like now you can stand there in your corner for the rest of the game and I lose by 15.
Yep.
And that happened at least 5 times when I played.
And another one of these, again, I'm looking into, can I get rerolls? One, Lieutenant's giving me reroll ones somewhere. Centurion Devs, reroll Twin Link Lascannons. Eradicators, just yes, reroll everything. Hits wounds. It also, don't shoot regular guys. Shoot a monster vehicle. Gladiator Reaper, Twin Link. Inceptor guns, Twin Link. I try to lean into those things that give me maximum efficiency. When I hit something, I want to reroll as much as humanly possible to give me that perfect curve.
Oh, and I'm sorry, OnePlus. I didn't answer exactly. I would take, if I was going to just start a list, I don't know what detachment you're taking. I just want to be able to score my points. I'm going to take 1 unit of Inceptors. I'm going to take 1 Scout Squad, and I'm going to take a Calidus Assassin. And then I'm going to start with at least 1 unit of Infiltrators. And that's if I don't know the detachment, I don't know what you're playing against, I don't know your terrain format, nothing. I'm going to start there and then adjust.
Look at some lists that were out in the tournament zone. Matt's Hellstorm Major list. We've got the Biologis with Fire Splint, Libyan Phobos armor, jumping inside some bros. We've got Calgar going with a big old unit of aggressors. Well, also with the Biologist going in. So Uriel making somebody deep strike. We've got a Ballistus Dreadnought and triple Redemptor, which is, man, just one of those things that go, hey, I've got a 2-up, I've got Armor Contempt, and weirdly enough, the butt of my gun seems to be just behind this terrain, giving me a cover save. So, and of course, Inceptors, Eradicators. You've got some shenanigans in this list. You've got the ability to put some people up. You've got an untargetable unit of Infiltrators. You've got a unit of Incursors giving +1 to hit on something after they shoot at it. I don't know if they've ever actually done a wound to anybody, but they are +1 to hit for everybody else.
Exactly, and that's kind of what it's there for. I think this is a very interesting take on how you could play Ultramarines Gladius without Triple Whirlwind. Redemptors just give you a really weird skew of, hey, actually, I am durable enough to make it through the game. And if they really need to take something out, you can have some Incursors pop out and take some bolter shots, and suddenly 1 bolt around plinks off them, and your army's like, oh, we heard the metallic ping. We know to shoot better against that target. It's a very interesting list here by Matt. I think it's probably a place you could go very easily with Ultramarines if you want to just, peanut butter and jelly, easy to play, same thing you've been doing for the whole time that 10th's been out.
No, it's not. We're not going to go over it today on that because we don't know if that's going to be the thing for moving forward or if that's just going to be the FAQ for that particular tournament, which is for the championships.
That's why we went ahead and went, just ask your TO. Your TO is going to make their decisions independent of anything anyway. So it's always a good practice just to ask your TO before you play in an event.
And this is why probably Black Templars are the best way to take armor, to be honest with you right now. Ooh. Spaz's just taken all of the boys. So we've got Crusaders, yes. Tech Marine. Black Templars, Gladiators, double Lancer, double Reaper. Ballistas, because it's hard not to take one because it's so cheap right now. I don't even like them. It's just for 140 points and a 2-up save. You're like, get in here. I love you. Invictor, Redemptor, Scout Squad, Storm Speeder to get those shenanigans on it. A Calidus and an Evisor looking to score those points. But the thing is he's got a lot of just stuff, to be honest with you, which is really nice.
Yeah, I do like this list a lot. Just having that many 5-man Marine bodies, people go, oh, well, I can take care of Marine bodies. And it's like, okay, yeah, but they're everywhere. Also, while they're everywhere, there's also these tanks, and you have to deal with them. So I like that this can play threat overload. It can play a trading game. It can actually, stat check people fairly well. And that's one of the things you got to be used to playing Marines. You have to use everything at your disposal, and man, does this list do that.
This has so much stuff. I love it because it's got durable things, but it's got a bunch of trash units running around, and the trash units all have things that they can hit you with. Grav pistol, power fist, Lascannon, and a melty gun. It's not. I don't really want to be shot by a Lascannon and a melty gun.
Especially when it gets to reroll a hit or a wound or a damage.
Yes, exactly. It's just these can really just add up. The damage can just chip, and he's got so many things. I like the fact that there's not wasted damage or wasted units anymore. So that there's a lot of smaller units, a lot of individual things. He just has a lot of things to score. I love this list quite a bit. As far as an Ironstorm list, it's just he basically went, I want to get as many activations of my detachment bonus as humanly possible. That's fantastic.
Let's talk 21 units. 21 units in a Marine list is crazy.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, move us on.
Let's talk about going with some wolves. Sometimes you got to take Bjorn the Fell-Handed and all of the boys, the named characters that come in.
I love that. I love this list so much.
He literally went with Canis, Logan, Ragnar, Chaplain with Jump Pack, Wolfguard Battle Leader with a Thunderwolf, Hunter's Instincts, Wolf Lord on a Thunderwolf. He's got 5 Assault Intercessors with Jump Packs, which join the Chaplain with the Jump Pack, 6 Blade Guards that go with Ragnar, 6 Plasma Inceptors, double Predator Destructor, 2 units of Thunderwolf Cav, a Whirlwind, and a Woofin Dreadnought. You basically slam a bunch of characters inside the Thunderwolves, and you get it going on.
Oh yeah, this list is absolutely looking to take people unprepared and just say, "Here's my wolves, man," and also these good Marine units.
Yeah, he's got a mojo on it. So I mean, this thing looks wildly fun to play. I'm saying This
is a Brad and I list. We're like, is this the best thing you can take? No. Is this the most fun thing you can take that'll still beat people to death? Yes. Okay, yeah. We're taking that.
Also, you literally took Canis, Logan, Ragnar.
It's everybody. It's if I went to the GW store when I first started and was like, give me all the awesome characters for my army. And you get to play them, and it's good.
It's so much stuff. This is a very fun list. Now, let's take a look at the Salamanda's Firestorm. Because it is actually Salamanders, because he brought Adrax and Vulcan. The only two. Well, I guess it's not the only two, because they still have the Dreadnought. But I'll say the only two. He's got the Biologis, Captain in Gravis Armor, Lieutenant with Combi-Weapon, because why not? 6 Flamestorm Aggressors, 6 Blade Guard for Adrax to hang out in, 6 Eradicators, because Melt is a hell of a thing when Vulcan stares at somebody with his monocle, 2 3-man Inceptor squads, 10 Infernus Marines, because that 2 CP strat that says we're gonna get some mortals and there's nothing you can do about it. He's got double Land Raider in here, man.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why he doesn't have double Redeemer. I actually think that might have been he just didn't own 2 Redeemers, to be perfectly honest with you.
I think if you look at everything, I think it's actually really easy to see this one. He wanted to take a double Redeemer, but then realized the points wouldn't work out, so he went with an extra Plasma Inceptor squad instead. Because Plasma doesn't get anything extra; it's just great by itself, a 3-man. Obviously for scoring secondaries and for putting out just a little bit of damage. But if I was going to take this list, I would take those Plasma Inceptors, make him a Calidus, and bump that Land Raider up to a Land Raider Redeemer.
Yeah, there's some serious damage coming out here. You can keep Vulcan not dead within 24. You're getting like rerolls for days on this. This list has so much damage. It's still the same thing though, that it terrifies me, any list that has to do all of their damage right up on top of your face. That's the only thing that I'm always worried about. This is,
yeah,
you're the counter punch. Like, for instance, the Chaos Counterpunch feels
exactly.
Just
I was
so,
just thinking that.
Oh my god! Like, you're gonna hit them hard, and they're gonna be like, "Yeah, man, I'm about to slip on my boots of mighty ass kicking," and shit's about to happen.
Yeah, this is very much an all-in list. I love it because all the units are sweet. They're independently powerful. They're everything we're talking about that Marines need to be in a list. There's just a few questions I need answered that I'm going to have to put it on the table and see. And one of those is, how does my army stack up against a Forge Fiend reruling hits and wounds with exploding sixes? If the answer is well, then great, let's do it. If the answer is then maybe we go back to the drawing board.
100% on that. And that's all I have to say about the war in Vietnam. And I'll be in San Diego on Sunday. I will be in San Diego on Sunday still, hopefully. Hopefully I didn't get murdered between now and then. But I'm leaving on Thursday. And
exciting.
I will be hanging out with the boys. Yeah, that's true. Carmona goes, my Chaos Space Marine list is called Julio Cesar Chavez. I'll lead 2 punches to land 1. Also, that dude was tough as nails, by the way. He also went 100-0 at one point in time. I'm a boxing fan. He was pretty awesome. So, but give me some promos for some stuff. Tell me what's happening.
Right here on Dice with Rice, we're going to continue to put out Deal With It. We're actually going to have some other more focused videos coming out recently on player-placed terrain and faction versus faction. What you kind of need to be looking at is like a general view. We've also got Still Frosty Gaming, where Brandon and I are going to do battle reports. We are actively fixing some of the audio problems we had, and you can check out Still Frosty if you want to watch me battle some crazy lists against Brandon's crazy lists.
And they're working on the Jedi problems.
That too. Yeah.
So we'll be, speaking of Still Frosty, I will be again restreaming it to both our channels tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We will be talking about his projects and also talking about the fact that I want him to make me. I'm so excited now. I got lost in the fact that Carmona said we're getting tacos. I'm already in. But we'll be talking about the fact that I want to get a good-looking army together for Vegas. Now what you're thinking, Brad, good-looking army? That sounds crazy talk. But I think I will. I want him to make me something, and I might ship it there. Actually, that's a lie. The Playmaker's going to drive it there.
There you go. And as a final note, before we Queen's Wave, please like the stream. Please like it over at Death or Glory, and like it here at Dice with Rice. It really helps us out. And if you love the content, consider subscribing. It's free. It's awesome. You get to know, you can hit the little bell icon and know whenever we go live. As Austin likes to point out, we might just spontaneously go live at any time. You never know. That's why you got to hit that bell.
Because somebody does that sometimes.
Yeah, I definitely not the old man. He'd never do that.
And until then, Queen's Wave, everyone.